Yeah.
I've noticed too recently when, like, with the offers that I have had that have been accepted, the clients are much more willing to go into they just want a fixed payment. Like, they don't care if the rate's higher. I know it's 4.5 or 5 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
They just want a fixed payment that they don't have to think about. Like, they want to just set it and forget it. And I feel like in the past few years, people have been willing to take on a bit of that risk, knowing that they're going to get a better, lower rate if they went variable. Now it's like, not only are you getting a higher rate, but you also have to worry about these potential increases and so on. So people are saying, just lock me in. Like, I don't care if it's 5 years, 3 years, like, just lock me in so I don't have to think about my payments changing.
You're listening to the Ottawa Real Estate Podcast with your hosts, Paul Stevenson, David Warren, and Greg Campbell. Let's see what's going on in the world of real estate today.
Woo!
Hello.
The band is back together. Going through puberty.
The band is back together.
Welcome, everyone, to the Ottawa Real Estate Podcast. My name is Paul Stevenson. I'm here with Greg Campbell. I'm here with David Warren.
Hello.
And we have a guest coming in shortly for a short amount of time. a short guest for a short time in a short period. How you guys doing? How was the weekend?
Weekend was great. I actually visited some properties and submitted an offer yesterday, which was good.
Mm-hmm.
So that was exciting with some people that have been looking for a while from the show.
There's been a lot more. I've had last year. I feel like I ended the year like a record number of pre-approvals. Just as we said, people waiting to see where the market shifted. And first few weeks has been a lot of people actually firing. They're firing. So it's good to see.
Pulling the trigger.
Yeah.
Speaking of pulling the trigger, let's just jump right. Are we jumping right into this? Is that what's happening here?
Let's do it. Let's go.
Okay, I'll
I can't speak either right now.
Some context here, so people know what we're talking about. So we've been talking about multiple offers coming back a bit. This week there was actually way more from what I personally know than I was kind of expecting. I'm sure that we're not the only ones involved, but my partner, work colleague Luka Maric, was actually involved with one with a buyer who found us through the show. And they won. There was, I believe, 4 offers on this property. And anyways, I'm going to leave it at that. Let's bring in Luka and have him tell the story so that everyone can get a first, first-hand
recap.
What's the word I'm looking for? I'm just holy cow.
So the client that we got came through the podcast. Super easy to work with. Mortgage M kind of worked with Paul in the beginning, and then she was kind of handling her buying kind of was happening in the West End, so I was helping her with all of that. And last week we offered a property out in Campbell. Started at just our offer, went to 2 offers, and the next morning before the offer presentation, we were actually up to 5 offers. And we ended up revising our initial offer 3 times as additional offers kind of came in, with kind of increased demand on the market now for some of these properties that are priced in the $400,000 to $600,000 range. We've been seeing a lot more competition. And actually, the previous week, we had another client for a property on Alta Vista that actually went up to 15 offers in 2 days as well. So seeing just an overall increase in buyers, I think, slowly starting to come out of the woodwork.
Yeah, and you won, which was great. It's not closed yet, so we won't talk about that. But you won out of 5 offers, and I think everybody should know, like, what we mentioned last week was that we're going to start seeing some multiple offers again, but the price jumps won't be as high. So that's safe to say it was the same in your situation, right? Like, you came up, but it wasn't like anywhere near 50 or 100,000 or anything like that.
No, nowhere near 100,000 like we were seeing last year, but definitely starting to see increased competition in the market. And a little bit of a funny story actually with that one. I was before last revision, I kind of revised, submitted our top offer, and started doing my workout. And we ended up re-revising one more time. So I paused my workout, ran down to the change room, and there was a couple of people probably wondering what the hell I was doing. but took my computer out, gym clothes, right in the locker room, and revised and resubmitted the offer. And I think that little bit extra that we added on with the last revision is what kind of helped us get the win. So that was pretty cool.
Anytime you see someone on a laptop in a weird place, they're a realtor. You know, someone's on a roller coaster and they're just there tickling the ivory. They're submitting an offer. We've all seen it. We know it.
Yeah.
Is he
Realtor
Luka, is
mortgages, I guess, eh?
the place that they were offering on? Was it anything unique with this property? Was it just priced well? What were you seeing as far as why?
I would just say the stuff that's priced well. We'd kind of offered on a couple other things that were overpriced, and we kind of offered what market value was, but a couple of sellers I think are still kind of stuck to where the market was, like 9 months ago last year. But the properties that I've seen that are going pretty quickly and in multiple offers are typically priced very well. So the agent on the other side actually, it kind of sometimes it's the client, right, that kind of forces us to put the price higher. But when you kind of have a really good conversation with them, well-priced properties I'm finding are the ones that are going into multiples. That was kind of similar to the property in Alta Vista. Like that one, they kind of knew they underpriced. And that one I think ended up selling 50 over asking, no conditions within 2 days. But that's exactly where kind of Greg and I thought it would land in the market value.
And to be clear, just for everybody listening, that the one that you just did sold in multiples, but with all conditions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is great.
That's great. Like that's how it should be. The money was one thing, but they understood that they were going to have everybody had conditions.
For now, but that one in Alta Vista, I would imagine those conditions started to dwindle as you get to the 15th offer.
Yeah.
That one, the one in Alta Vista went unconditional, but I mean that one was about $50,000 under market value. So I think people knew, even if it needed some work or whatever else, just based on what it was priced at. But people I think priced that in on that one, and I mean it was priced significantly below market value, so I think people were okay taking that risk. But this property was significantly older that we got conditions in on, and needs a little bit more work than I would say the one in Alta Vista did.
I think that strategy is called the 2022. No, listing it under market value for multiples.
Yeah,
we're gonna pull the 2022 here on them.
Yeah, cool. Okay.
That's awesome. Well, glad you won it, and I guess you got to go do a home inspection on it.
Yeah, I gotta head out here in about 10 minutes or so to get out there to get that inspection done, and then hopefully get a good update for you guys that we firm up later this week. So.
Yeah,
we'll talk about that next week. All right, cool. Well, thanks, Luka, for being here.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot, guys.
And letting us know what's really going on. What's really going on. All right.
Later, guys.
Thanks, man.
So, Greg, have we seen listings increase in January? Is there a larger number of listings? Because I'm thinking like multiples is also probably because there's not as much supply right now, which usually will increase come February, March, April.
Yeah, there's a lot more listings out. Let me just as of right now, I mean, more listings and more rental listings, more everything. In Orleans alone, we've got, I'm just looking at the graph right now. We've got about, we've got about 45 in the last 7 days. It's a lot. So the listings are coming out. So does that mean it's going to turn into a buyer's market? Because we're still not in an actual buyer's market. It's balanced. But with new properties coming out and the buyers coming out, it's just gonna be good, I think, for everybody. Everybody will win as long as the price is right. I still have some listed that got caught in that end of last year mix where it should have sold, but it didn't. So we're working on those, and hopefully we're getting a little bit more activity. So hopefully those will be sold soon. But yeah, you want to get into the Barrhaven stats here, boys?
Why not?
Let's do it.
Why not?
Hey everyone, my name is Greg Campbell, and I have the statistics for Barrhaven for 4 weeks ending January 22nd. So this is, again, similar to last week's Orleans thing. It's very telling on where the market is headed and where it's going, I think. Detached homes in Barrhaven, we have 55 active, 61 days on market average list price of $885,000. 4 conditionally sold in the last 7 days, 123 days on market average, and 916,000 was the average list price. There was a big one in there over $1 million that was on for a while that kind of made that days on market number very high. And
123
price up to 916. Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah. And sold, we had 12 sold, averaging 97 days on market at an average list price, or an average sold price, sorry, of $885,000. So the same sold price is the average as the active listings for detached homes in Barrhaven right now. Last year, at the same time, 24 had sold, 20 days on market average, and the price was $960,000. That was the average. So we're down substantially. We're down just $75,000 sold in Barrhaven detached homes year over year for now.
That's 2022, right? Sold in 2022.
Oh, excuse me. You're right. I have the number wrong in the.
Well, I want to make sure it's a typo and not the incorrect.
Yeah,
statistic.
It is a typo. Sorry about that. Thanks for seeing that, Paul. I'll change it before I post this up. You're good for that, Paul. Always keeping me in check here. All right. Mm-hmm. Monthly for Barrhaven town semis, 58 active, 74 days on market, average list price of $625,000, 7 conditionally sold, 29 days on market average, and the average price of $548,000. That's a big drop.
Those are moving.
Sold, 23 sold, 54 days on market average, and an average price of $567,000. So last year, 14 had sold. So we actually had more sold this year versus the same time last year, which I thought was interesting. And last year was only 5 days on market at an average price of $681,000. So that's $100,000 more same time last year for townhomes. That was the hot market last year. Everybody remembers it. Sorry?
I'm sure you don't have the number, but I wonder how many less listings there were. Like there might have only been 14 listings.
Ooh, that's a good, that's an interesting, less listings total. Yeah, I don't know. It'd be an interesting stat to have, actually. Condos, 11 active, 98 days on market, 445,000 average list price, conditionally sold 4, averaging 45 days on market at a price of $402,000. And check this out, 3 sold, 42 days on market at an average price of $325,000. Clearly, and I do this very as it is. I don't really adjust, if I don't feel that I need to. So, one of those 3 was obviously a lower level condo at a very reasonable price. So I don't know that 325 is accurate of the market for condos in Barrhaven exactly, but that's the number for the last 4 weeks. And in 2022, 10 had sold at the same time, 5 days on market, an average price of $469,000. So this is interesting to me because this, for Barrhaven, this kind of changes the way that the condo market looks overall for Ottawa, because we know it has increased. So I'm anxious to see this again in 4 weeks and see if it's gone down, if it's like balanced out, or if it's coming closer to that 469. Because based on these numbers, it doesn't look like it's going to do that.
Yeah,
it looks like it's
and
down.
last year, January, February of 2022 were the busiest months for the year. Mm-hmm. So I would imagine that delta between like January and February this year and those sale prices will probably be
they'll be the biggest.
drastic. Yeah. And then it'll kind of shrink, is my guess. But because I think February last year was like a 17% gain or something.
Yeah,
like
February was insane last year. That was the crazy month. And then we got rentals here. This always blows my mind. 136 active rentals right now in Barrhaven, averaging 54 days on market at an average price of $2,500. None conditionally sold or conditionally rented, I should say. 86 were rented. Oh, another typo there. Gosh. 86 were rented, 38 days on market average price of $2,300. So we got a $200 difference from the average rented price versus what's active. And in 2022, same time, we had 59 rented, 32 days on market at an average price of $2,140. So we're still up versus last year, which we knew that because that happened starting last summer. But the price is that's a big jump, $2,500 to $2,300 in the average price. So these numbers, again, what does that mean for investors that bought a single property to, be a landlord, have an investment property, and how much are they losing throughout the year based on what they paid for it and what they're able to rent it for?
And how long are they willing to let those losses run for? Right.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be telling if people re-sign those leases, still realize they're in the hole, a couple $100 and possibly then start offloading those properties too, and have a flood of that same property type back to the market.
Yeah, like the amount of rentals, like I've never seen anything like it. They just keep coming out.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think this we're Monday, leasing Tuesday. I think one thing that'll be interesting is Wednesday's rate announcement by the Bank of Canada, which I think will have, could have a significant impact on the market. It's, there's like the Globe Mail this morning talking, there's talk that they're kind of expecting a 1/4 point raise on Wednesday. However, RBC even said they've kind of left it open from anything from not making any changes to all the way up to a 1/2 point. But most assuming a 1/4 point. But I think that'll be telling, whether it be either 0 or a 1/4 point. Even at a 1/4 point, it's slowing down from what it was, which kind of, I think, will instill some confidence. If there's a 0 rise in the overnight rate, I think that will be an interesting to hear what they have to say to kind of set the table for the rest of the year, as far as, what their plans will be for the Bank of Canada, how they see the latest employment numbers and last week's drop of inflation by 0.5%, kind of what their messaging is for the upcoming year. Because I think whatever that ends up being will play a big impact into the housing market and businesses' spending plans and employment plans and all that.
And on average, if it drops, setting the tone, exactly. On average, if it drops a 1/4 point, what does that look like in terms of actual money on a property purchase? Like if you're approved for 500,000 and then they drops another 1/4 point, where does that put you in your approval? Approximately.
Yeah, I think it's on a like change in a 1/4 point on a mortgage. I think it's dependent. I'm trying to remember the math right now off the top of my head. I don't know if you know, Paul.
Well, payment wise, I think it's like $20 for every 1/4 point, give or take. But again, it depends on the mortgage size. But going back to your question about the pre-approval, Greg, it also depends. Like right now, most people, as far as like maximizing their qualifying, they're looking at fixed because the fixed rates are lower than the variable right now. So
right.
So if it goes down a 1/4 point on the variable, it'll probably increase your buying power by 25 to 40,000, maybe, give or take.
Decrease, you mean?
Well, you said if it decreased a 1/4 point. So I'm saying if it
if it increases a 1/4 point. Okay, there you go.
Yeah. So it'll probably decrease by, I would say, like anywhere from 20 to 30,000 if I had to guess off the top of my head.
Okay. So that's interesting because it makes a big difference, and everybody's shopping still, and everyone's kind of getting used to the rates, but that's significant to the market. So now the interesting thing to see will be how much does that affect house prices? Does it affect them at all, or does it stay where they are because the buyers are back out and there will be buyers with more purchase power than some others? So maybe some of these people are just going to be
prices have basically come down almost lockstep with the rate increases and what that ability for qualifying is. So as the Bank of Canada has raised rates over the past year, really you're looking at those people that were buying up what their max qualifying was. So you're basically, as those rates came up and the max of what people were qualifying for is basically in tune with what the market's come down, that 100 to 150,000, because they just, with all the rate increases, they qualify for 150,000 less as a general population. It's been virtually kind of in step with one another this past year. So I think really just right now it's more so in the confidence standpoint, not necessarily, at least in the Ottawa market, from a qualifying. Again, we spoke about it so many times of Ottawa having such a strong employment market and strong household incomes, that I think it's more so the confidence of are the rates are they going to keep increasing? Are they bottoming out? And just the timing, people psychologically timing, whether we're at the bottom for price decreases or not. And so I think that it's really just the psychology around that. I think in Ottawa, it's not necessarily a qualifying perspective. From a qualifying perspective, it's just in that confidence of,
good point.
are we done with rate increases? And is this the bottom for prices? We'll never be able, it's pretty hard to time exactly the, exact bottom for prices. But I think with the rates, at least, if they don't make any change or make a minor change and basically say they're putting a halt on it for a while, then that'll certainly breed confidence from those buyers that waiting for.
Well, and from what I'm reading, it looks like that's what's going to happen. But I mean, it could change at any time,
Yeah,
I've noticed too recently when, with the offers that I have had that have been accepted, that clients are much more willing to go into they just want a fixed payment. Like they don't care if the rate's higher. I know it's 4.5 or 5 or whatever it is. Yeah. They just want a fixed payment that they don't have to think about. Like they want to just set it and forget it. And I feel like in the past few years, people have been willing to take on a bit of that risk, knowing that they're going to get a better, lower rate if they went variable. Now it's like, not only are you getting a higher rate, but you also have to worry about these potential increases and so on. So people are saying, just lock me in. Like, I don't care if it's 5 years, 3 years, like just lock me in so I don't have to think about my payment changing. I've seen that more recently than in the past few years. Like people seem way less interested in any sort of volatility to their payment.
Yeah.
Fluctuation to their payment.
I know what you meant. I knew what you meant.
I was like, wait a minute. Still my first. We were talking about this kind of. Oh, sorry, Greg.
No. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say we saw an interesting. This was talked about in I think August or September of last year, but now going to be coming out that the government's going to be offering a tax credit of up to $7,500. So maxing out at $50,000. It's a 15% tax credit for additional dwellings. So like in-law suites, things of that nature. On your primary residence. And the plan, I think, is to allow multi-generational families. Greg, you've been talking about this, people buying, as a collective, but allowing you to basically add an additional dwelling unit to your property and get a small little tax credit, a little 15% tax credit. And we were talking about that over the weekend. What do you guys think this will help families? Do you think it's smoke and mirrors? How do you feel about this potential credit?
I mean, it's solely for family. So it's to have a parent, a sibling, cousin, blood relative kind of thing. So it's not for anyone building a secondary unit for rental income purposes.
For family, yes.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to change anything. It's not. Nobody's going to decide to add $100,000 secondary suite because now they'll get $7,500 back.
Yes.
As a max, for the cost of construction. If somebody was going to do it, they would just do it. This is, I think this $7,500 is great if you're already planning on doing it, but I don't think it's going to drive people in that regard. But
are there conditions associated with it? I haven't read too far into it, but is there any sort of, you have to have this, you have to have that, or is it just a straight, you show the bills?
Basically that, no, I mean, just that they that it's for immediate family members or parents over 65 or living with a disability, that has to be inhabited for within 12 months of renovations being completed. So definitely a lot of time there given, and the appliances and some things like that don't qualify for the tax credit because those can be removed basically. But other than that, seems to be pretty straightforward. But yeah, I don't think, I mean, like I said, I think for those, it's going to be great. As far as that they're already planning on doing it, I just don't think it's going to move the needle and get people to put one in. If you need a secondary suite because you have family moving in, you're just going to do it.
Yes. And probably not even know that this exists, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just another great move from our federal government.
Yeah,
putting in all
I
these things to make us think that they're really trying to make a difference here. I don't know. I find it just to be another one of those useless little tools like the vacancy tax and the foreign
first-time homebuyer incentive.
Just all this stuff is just wild. Like there's way more. There's much better things they could be doing.
I think the challenge that they have, and with it doesn't matter who's in government, is that a lot of the policies are being written and derived from somebody that doesn't have a finger on the pulse in that specific field. So I know, in the Minister of Finance's department, it's, they don't have a real estate expert, or they don't have a pharmaceutical expert, or health expert that are helping to drive these policies. A lot of times it's just for what the hot topic is. We saw that especially the last couple of years through the pandemic with housing, because it's been such an issue. But I think in a lot of cases, politicians just are rushing to try to throw something out there for votes, or without really putting through thought of whether it's going to have what sort of impact can be made. I think there's other ways of doing that, of driving people to have multi-generational homes, but I don't think a credit like this is really going to drive it, in my opinion. But
well, as we all know, the budget will balance itself. It'll figure itself out eventually, with increased taxes and so on. But yeah, no, I agree. I think I know for the secondary suite, it does have to actually be. It has to be a self-contained housing unit. It has to include a separate entrance, bathroom, kitchen, sleeping area. And I know the home being renovated must be inhabited, or reasonably expected to be inhabited, within 12 months after the renovation. So as you said, Dave, if I have my parent who has to move into my house, I'm doing this regardless. I'm not even really considering the up to $7,500 that I may get back. But it might help some people, and that's what's important.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it does get used by some, and maybe for some that can have their parents move in now, or build this, and it actually does benefit them. But I think the stats down the road will be interesting to see how many people, or what the uptick in usage is. Anyways, who knows? So,
Greg, I know you mentioned that we were going to have a guest next week. It was an agent from somewhere else in Canada, correct? Can you just maybe expand on that and let us know what to expect?
Yeah, his name's Steve Bailey, and he's one of the owner's partner at the agency in Brantford, Waterloo, Oakville, and Muskoka. So I think he's been in the business a long time, and I think he'd be a good voice to have on the show, just to kind of talk about those markets and what they're seeing in Ontario, so we can just have a little bit more information for our listeners about what else is going on. I know that I'm interested in having him on, especially because he knows those four markets very well. Mm-hmm. It'll be good to have. Yeah,
it'd be interesting to see the contrast. Hopefully, if possible, it would be good to have maybe you provide, similar to the stats you did for Barrhaven, maybe have Ottawa stats, and then have him on a contrast,
I'll do a general
provide
stats
like
next week
Brantford
for
or something
sure,
like that, just so we can see what the different markets look like comparatively.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll do an Ottawa stat. I'll do a general kind of core stat. I did want to say one thing.
Here. Great planning session
before,
here for
yeah,
next week.
Yeah. Live. What to expect?
Before I forget, I wanted to say that I won a multiple offer rental deal this week.
Really?
I forgot to mention that. Yeah, we had to come up. We got it done, and my clients were solid gold, and this guy was just turning down everyone. And anyways, we upped our monthly by $50, and we got it. And these guys were like government employees, full time, pension, like credit scores of like 800. And it was still like, well, my guy's not sure. We had a pet. So the pet was like we had to get like this solid locked in pet clause. I've never seen anything like it. I think I'm going to read it on the show at one point, but it was crazy.
What kind of pet? Like just a normal dog, cat?
It's
or
a 9-year-old
snake?
dog that sleeps all day, apparently. But this guy was just not having it. But anyways, because their file was so strong, we beat out another family for it. So anyways, yeah, stuff happening, people. Like, just make sure you're having conversations daily with your pros and not just reading the headlines. Because I was reading some headlines this morning and I was like, man, if everyone was just reading this and nothing else, no one would do anything. They wouldn't leave their house. They would just be like, oh my God, it's Canada. We're done. We're done for. This media frenzy of bad news. It's crazy, man.
Well, should we get into some good news and get some mood boosts?
Mood boosts? Absolutely.
Yeah. I should mention before getting into the boosts that voting is still open for the Faces Magazine Awards. We are still nominated as Podcast of the Year
They
in
didn't
Ottawa.
pull that nomination yet?
No, they haven't, surprisingly. I don't know what they're thinking, but we're there. And if you're listening and you haven't already, subscribe to us on YouTube. We do post more content on there, shorts and things like that as well. So good place to follow. But yeah, if you go to Faces, I think it's faces.ca/awards, you can vote once per day. And I think voting ends beginning of February. That's my plug.
Voting ends beginning of February. I haven't posted that yet. I'm going to post it right now.
I don't know if you can hear there's like the sound of chickens outside. There's this basically this endangered bird called a guacharaca, and it looks like a turkey basically, but they're huge and they make the most hideous sound. They wake me up every morning.
It's every morning.
They might be more endangered by the time I leave. February 15th. The February 15th, the voting ends. Okay, so I got four today.
Perfect.
4 mood boosts. Number 1, have you heard about the pregnant bedbug? She's going to have her baby in the spring. Make people hopeful of warmer weather, Number 2, what did the cross-eyed teacher say? I just can't control my pupils.
Oh.
Number 3, what kind of whiskey does a bunny drink? Hopscotch. Hopscotch. Funny story, actually. I saw someone use the Jump to Conclusions mat on Twitter the other day, and I thought it was hilarious. Yeah,
amazing.
I don't know. It just made me think of it. Yeah,
amazing. I love it.
Shout out to Office Space. Number 4, last but not least, I'm thinking of becoming a hitman. I heard they make a killing. That's it.
I like this.
Funny story. I actually had a client this week that I talked to. We were going through a pre-approval, and he said he actually hasn't listened much to the show, but he fast forwards to the end of the show to hear the mood boost. So he's the one, the one we're doing it for.
1 in a million.
Yeah, exactly.
Sociopath, eh? Steven.
So we'll be back next week. It'll be our last show in January. We'll see what happens with the rates this week on Wednesday, as Dave mentioned. I imagine, as Dave said, I think it's probably going to go up a quarter point and then we'll hold. But, predictions have been wrong in the past with rates. Who knows? It might go up 1%. It might go down 2%. We have no idea. But I think, holding or going up a quarter percent is where it should be. And we'll be back next week to talk all about it. We'll have Greg's realtor partner on from Southern Ontario, and we'll see what's going on down there. And thank you to everyone listening. Cast your votes. Share with a friend.
Subscribe.
Yeah. And listen, I want to say that if anyone listening wants statistics on your specific neighborhood, just reach out. Let me know, because I'll get it to you. I love looking at the numbers and seeing where it's at. So just holler at me anytime. And
numbers guy.
Link, you got the info. I'll have that for you within,
He's always been known
hours.
as the numbers guy.
Yeah.
Am I? Yeah. Okay. On that
All
note,
right, guys.
grapefruit
See you
time.
next week.
All right.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe, because we'd really like that.